Nice.
Prepare to get bashed! Not in like a violent way, completely consensual bash. Prepare to get consensually bashed, I'll say. I'll have him change it.
Ah, man, that's a clip from Booksmart, which is a new movie, hits theaters this Friday. I had a chance to watch the movie. It's a really fun movie. A lot to think about in this movie, too. You watch it on the surface, but then you walk away and go, wow, man, that was a really cool approach to this movie. Making her directorial debut is our next guest. DB, run down a litany of accomplishments this woman has accomplished.
Let me see. Well, actually, she doesn't know this, but she was in Incredible Burt Wonderstone, which a good friend of mine's brother actually was a writer on.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, so we have a little bit of a weird connection.
That?
Yeah, and then also you were in Rush. She was in Cowboys and Aliens. And
You're not even looking at a list right now. This is amazing. This is off the dome.
Well, I'm just listing my favorite roles that you've been in, and I haven't even gotten to the biggest one of my personal favorite, which is, of course, Tron Legacy.
Yeah.
We had Garrett Hudlin here a little while ago. We've had Jeff Bridges too, but obviously that was like that was the movie where I was like, who is that girl?
Amazing.
But
Amazing.
I'm a big fan.
Acting.
Yes, my acting.
Yes. Who's that in that character role? No, I wish I had a light cycle. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, she's making her directorial debut because I am a huge John Hughes fan, and I think he was the father of the
100%
coming of age story with the teen angst and all that stuff like that, and I saw a lot of those influences in this film.
Yes.
Like, I'm sure you probably watched some of those and had your own take on it. But anyway, she's here, Olivia Wilde.
Olivia Wilde. Thank you, guys. I'm so happy to be here.
What's up, Olivia? How you doing?
I'm so good. I'm excited.
Yeah. You did great for a directorial debut.
Thank you.
You know, how did you decide that this would be the one? What was it about this script?
Well, I mean, I fell in love with making movies because of movies like John Hughes films. It was because of movies like Breakfast Club, and then, of course, Amy Heckerling's Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and then, Richard Linklater's Dazed and Confused. These are movies I grew up on that shaped me. I mean, it is undeniable that my adolescence was contextualized by these movies, the music they brought into my life, up until Clueless, also such a major part of my childhood.
Clueless, yes.
And it's really exciting to be able to add to that canon. Take this generation, Generation Z, which is so evolved and so fluid and so interesting and political and bold, and make a generational anthem for them, dedicated to them, that makes the rest of us just feel super nostalgic and happy.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I liked about this movie is, you always have in those kind of movies, those high school movies, you got the jock, the asshole, you got the popular girl, the asshole,
the nerd,
and then you got the nerd, the underdog that you want to see win. But this is slightly different.
It is.
Why is that on purpose?
It is. We just wanted to flip all the tropes. We wanted to take all the stereotypes and unravel them, because that's what happens when you get older. You realize no one is as simple as the box we initially put them in. There are no villains in life. And as you get older, you're like, everyone's dealing with their own stuff. Everyone's struggling. There's no reason to put everyone into these boxes, because if you're doing that to other people, you're doing it to yourself. So I thought, what if we could have these young kids reach that revelation in one night and remind the rest of us to stop doing it ourselves?
Yeah, well, I think you accomplished that. Olivia Wilde, who were you in high school?
Well, here's the thing. People tried to put me in a box and they couldn't, because I was a theater kid for sure. I was always in the theater. That's what I loved to do. But I was friends with all the athletes, because I can't play sports, but I love sports. I love to watch sports. I mean, I loved all my teachers. I was a nerd. I loved school, but I was also like into the kind of like emo goth scene. I thought they were interesting too. So I would bounce around and people were like, choose a lane. I always, people don't like it. I always say it's like high school and prison where you have to choose. Like you can't just walk around and sit at different tables. And I did, and people were like, who are you? You're a narc spy.
Yeah, they thought you were op. They thought you
and I was like, but I'm not. I don't know who I am yet. I'm 17. Who knows? And, that happened to me in Hollywood, too. Hollywood is the same as high school. And it was the same thing where I'm like, I like acting. I like producing. I like, all of these different roles. I think directing is the perfect combination of those roles. Before this, I directed music videos, and then
whose videos? Anybody
I did. Well, the one that most people know is I did this Red Hot Chili Peppers video that kind of helped put me on the map and made people believe in me as a director. So I'm very grateful for that. But it was so fun to feel like, wait a minute, there's one job that lets me interact with every technician, every department, and lets me play with music, costumes, actors, cinematographers. it's a joy for me to be able to help all those people do their best work, because that's what you do as a director. You're just the coach that helps the team do their best.
You, as a director, though, which is different than being an actress, I would imagine, because you get a lot of actors and actresses who come up here who don't necessarily watch all the scenes, but as a, especially the ones they're not in.
Yes,
but, you know what
they
I mean?
don't even read those scenes.
They don't even read those scenes. You're a director now. You have to watch every scene back, right?
Yeah.
How will that at all affect you as an actress?
Oh my gosh. I mean, it will make me appreciate the process that happens before and after the actors participate in the filmmaking process, right? Actors think that movies start when they get there and end when they leave. That part is like a tiny fraction of the process. And it's an essential part, but there's so much else that happens. So now I, as an actor, will have much more of a sense of all the moving parts and understand that sometimes they can't control when they ask you to come 2 hours early and you're like waiting around. Like the whole idea of waiting as an actor is so exhausting, but I get it now. Sometimes it's just hard to plan. And I really appreciate that I had this young cast full of lovely people who worked for 6 weeks, 4 weeks of night shoots. And they were so energetic. They were like, yes, we love this. Even at 4 a.m., they were so on it. So I got lucky with this cast.
You got a great cast. Beanie Feldstein plays Molly. Who's actually Jonah Hill's younger sister, but she's her own force. Completely her own force.
She's brilliant.
Did she read for that part, or what was the story?
No, I offered it to her. Okay. I saw her in Neighbors 2, and I thought that person's really interesting, and she's really funny. And then I read some interviews, and she was really smart, and she's warm. And then I met with her, and I was like, this person is incredible. She just looks deep into your eyes. She's so connected and empathetic, and I knew she was the perfect Molly. And then Caitlin Deaver is just the most extraordinary actress. I call her Baby Julianne Moore. She's so good. And together, they're iconic.
Yeah, they do.
And then
great.
we have this amazing cast of like new people and people. We have skateboarders who've never acted before in this film, and they're so good. I hope they have huge careers.
Yeah,
it's exciting.
I see a Booksmart 2. I already see it. I'm predicting it right now. Booksmart 1 is in theaters this Friday. Olivia Wilde is here.
Olivia, did you by chance ever experience imposter syndrome with coming into the world of being a director? I remember last year so many people are up in arms because all of the very credible female directors got snubbed from the Oscars.
That's right.
And we're now just starting to see more women in this space.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel like, how the hell did I end up here? Am I qualified?
Absolutely. But you know what's interesting? I do think that's a kind of a feminine instinct that we have to get rid of. This idea that, we worry we haven't earned something. Have I earned the right to be in this room? I don't think men carry themselves that way, particularly directors pitching on jobs. In the last 10 years, 4% of studio films were directed by women. That's insane.
Wow.
What is that? Because you know what? More than half of film schools are populated by women. So it's not for lack of talent. So where's the disconnect? It's because studios need to take more risks on new talent because the females are inherently new talent because they haven't been given the opportunity. So I feel at times that, a little bit of a brief moment of anxiety of like, do I deserve to be here? And then I'm like, no, get rid of that.
Yes.
I've earned this. I've been working on sets for 17 years. This is what I do. This is the language I know. And I have to trust that I can tell stories and go for it.
Amen.
But it's something that I tell all women working in this industry. You have a right to be here and you have a right to rise up through the ranks and run this town.
You should run for office.
Hello.
You got
First
your stick
vote.
down packed.
Yes.
You had an incredible cast. I also liked Caitlin's storyline.
Yes.
Being a young woman in high school and she's a lesbian.
Yes.
And the way it played out was just
like a non-issue. It's I think the next step. This generation, Generation Z, they're so fluid. They don't even like labels. They don't,
Right.
and I admire that. I think our generation had to take the first step of owning labels and being proud of them, and they're kind of past that. They're saying, don't label me, don't limit me. This is who I love right now. I'm fluid in terms of gender, sexuality, politics. They resent the paradigm that we've set up for them, that they have to choose, am I a Democrat or am I a Republican? Am I straight or gay? Am I boy or girl? They're like, what if we think about this differently?
Yeah.
What if our perspective is a little more nuanced? And I think that's amazing. They make me optimistic. So I wanted to tell a story where everyone loves who they love and it's no issue and there's no hate. It's aspirational in that way, that it's showing a world where there's no hate. It's a very kind world. People are criticized for their lack of multidimensionality as opposed to their physical appearance or their sexuality. It's so much more about, their essence. It's more existential. And I think that's because this generation, they're just on another level.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Look at her. She is an example of the future to me. She's somebody who's saying, I don't care that you think I'm too young to be here. I'm not a career politician. I want to do things differently because it's clear it's not working. And that feels representative of the whole generation to me.
I like that. Olivia Wilde is here. We're talking about Booksmart in theaters this Friday. DB.
We had Ava DuVernay up here, and she spoke about watching the director's commentary on DVDs, and that's how she sort of picked up her skill to work behind the camera.
Yes.
So where did you go to find sort of your own personal experience in order to get comfortable with this role?
Well, I was lucky enough to work for great directors. So I realized at a certain point my film school was being an actor on the set of great directors and being able to shadow them. So when I worked for people like Spike Jonze and Ron Howard and Martin Scorsese, I had the opportunity.
Wait, hold on. She just ran through those 9. Did she normalize those names, right? You see what she did? Generation Z, right?
Might have heard of these guys.
Don't want no titles.
But it was amazing because I realized at a certain point, wait a minute, I have access. I can ask questions. They have to answer my questions because they're stuck with me on the set. So I'm not going to stop until I feel like I understand this process. And they were all so generous with their advice. And I really paid attention, to every bit of the process. People like, a lot of actor turned directors like Jon Favreau. I love Jon Favreau and he taught me a lot. So it's been a blessing to be able to be up close and personal with my heroes and to be able to say, okay, how are they dealing with challenges? Seeing when a location falls through, you run out of time, an actor doesn't show up. How does the great director handle that challenge? And so I stole from them in my own process. I was like, okay, let me think about what Marty would do here, channel my Marty. But it was an awesome realization when I had that moment of doubt of, do I deserve to be here? And then I thought, wait a minute. Yes, I didn't graduate from a film school, but what I did do is spend my life shadowing the greats. I had my own film school. So sometimes your life, your experience is your education.
Yes.
And part of what this movie is saying is don't value yourself by what college you went to or what, these weird arbitrary markers of your worthiness. Your worth is defined by the life you've lived and how much you've paid attention.
Olivia Wilde, man. Mike Muse, you want to ask a quick question?
Yeah, so good. Who knew we had so much in common, Olivia, besides our love of hats?
Yeah.
But I sat at every table, too, in high school, and I would never thought this move actually speak to me. I was one of those overachievers who didn't have fun. But I think so actually will be an answer to that because this Generation Z, they're so focused on the markers, right? And it helps them have the fun. I'm just curious, though, you have such a handle on Gen Z. What kind of research did you do that allows you to have such a handle on Gen Z?
The good thing about social media is that they post so much. It's really possible now to kind of have a peek into their world because they're very public and open about it. So just through, Instagram is an amazing place to do research. You used to, in the old days, would have to go and embed yourself in a high school and listen in on conversations. And now that's possible just by signing onto the internet. It's amazing. It's really an opportunity to connect and empathize with people who live in a very different generation and world than you. If you see the internet as a positive thing, it's like, wait, this is actually a way in so that I can fully understand where they're coming from. And it's hard to be young right now. It's really hard. I can't imagine truly how it feels not only to deal with social media and the FOMO that must be intense, but I mean, we've given them a world that's on fire. Yeah. And they realize it's going to be up to them. I mean, we were prepping this movie and developing it during, the Parkland disaster and those kids who were so inspiring and seeing them stand up and against their, they didn't plan on becoming young activists, but doing it because they felt compelled and screaming from the rooftops, we're doing things differently. And I thought, yes, that is the generation I want to speak to and honor. But it was also great to have a young cast who could tell us if things felt inauthentic. You know, they could say like, I just wouldn't say it that way. I want to say things differently. And we were like, yes, tell us how to do it right.
Did Jason give you any problems as an actor? Was he like the hardest person to direct? You know
what's amazing about him? He's such a good improviser, like truly one of the best in the world.
Yeah.
That we just had to give him a little bit of information, and he was off and running. And it was kind of fascinating to watch that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is funny when your partner is working for you all of a sudden, because you're like, how is this power dynamic going to work?
You got to go home. That scene you did today wasn't too great.
Exactly. But luckily he was great, so I didn't have to give him a hard time.
That's what's up. Olivia Wilde is here. Megan's on the line from Florida. Good morning, Megan.
Megan.
How are you guys? I'm so excited to get through. How are you?
That's great. We're doing well. Say hello to Olivia. You have a question while she's here?
Olivia, first and foremost, I just want to let you know, honestly, you're a huge inspiration to me. I was sent away to a military Christian cult boarding school when I was 15, and I didn't get out until I was 20 because they, convinced you to stay. And the OC was the first television show I had ever, I ever finally got to see again. And you stood out to me so much. I didn't know what to do, and I was so lost. I was 20, but I was really, 15. I was so confused and was in such dynamic of what they, taught us that, just seeing how you did your hair and dress, it really helped me out. I had to survive cancer while I was there and was just physically tortured for it. And then met someone in church through that and was married, unfortunately young, finally escaped that with my son, who is almost 16, and I had to have brain surgery, several spine surgeries, and I really just promote positivity and just inspire people to just be amazing against all odds, overcome your past. My son is like my pride and joy. I thankfully got to escape my ex-husband. I changed our names. I got full custody, which is a woman. I gave my son my last name, and it feels just awesome because not that many people do that. I was like, I want no money. I want nothing. And to do that with no support, and after just being so mentally and physically tortured, it took a lot. And to discover you, I still follow you, and I find you just so inspiring. And it's so few women that genuinely want other women to just rise up and speak what they've been through, as opposed to, I was told by so many people, just get over it, don't talk about it. And it's like,
no, you have to talk about it.
It's who you are.
Well, you're inspiring to me. I'm so grateful for you and your example, and everybody listening is inspired by you. So thank you for your strength. And, that is an amazing way to think about storytelling and our responsibility as storytellers, that we're talking to people we don't know out there, and that we can affect lives. You were already strong. I'm glad I got to connect with you through storytelling, but you're obviously an incredibly strong woman and a mother, and I salute you, and I wish you all the best luck. But it sounds like you know who you are, and you're going to be just fine.
Hey, and Megan, I want to say from the bottom of our hearts, you are truly a citizen.
A Sway in the morning.
Okay, Megan.
Wow.
Thank you so much. And if you don't mind, I'm really trying to just kind of, it took honestly until the past year and a half to finally find the courage to mention my boarding school's name. It was, Mountain Park Baptist Boarding Academy, and they tortured thousands and thousands of teenagers, and parents just signed off their kids because, pastors, their kids misbehaved. If they were lesbian or gay, they sent them there. Myself, my parents were very, in the public eye in South Florida, and I was embarrassment, so off I went. Unfortunately, that's what they did. So to find the courage to just kind of, let them know it's not right. And it took a while to.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you,
you're
Megan.
very courageous. Give it up for Megan.
Living your
Wow,
truth.
Olivia. Wow. Thank you for that. That was a powerful call. We got a few more minutes with you. And with that few more minutes, we came up with a game.
Uh-oh.
Okay. We came up with a game, and it's called
Clear Up the Facts.
Okay.
Nowadays, people are always making up rumors and fake stories. and you really can't believe anything you read on the internet. So we're hoping you can help us clear up the facts right here on Sway in the Morning.
All right, here it is. Olivia Wilde is here. She made a directorial debut. You can see it for yourself this Friday. It's called Booksmart. Great movie. Take the kids. It's a family movie. You can take the young ones, take
teenagers, the old people,
and bring the grandparents too. They'll enjoy it. Okay, DB, go for it.
These are all fun, wacky things that I found on the internet, and I just want to see if they're true or not, according to the source, okay? Your parents were friends with Mick Jagger.
Okay, no, they were friends with Mick Jagger. They are journalists, and journalists sometimes come in contact with amazing people because journalists write stories and are a part of that world. So they weren't friends with him, but at one point I got to meet him because he was in my proximity because of my parents. And I love the Rolling Stones. The weird thing is I later got to work for him on Vinyl, this HBO show we made, and it was so surreal. I was like, this is insane.
Wow.
But yeah, as a little kid, I got to be like, hi, Mick.
Did he remember you?
No.
Okay.
I don't think he remembers most of the women he's come in contact with.
Hello.
I'm dead.
All right, so you started with Daniel Craig in Cowboys and Aliens.
True
now, is
story.
it true that you almost played a Bond girl in Skyfall?
It was in Casino Royale.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the first.
It was so cool. I got to screen test. And it was really funny because I met him during that screen test and I was terrified. And then I got to make Cowboys and Aliens with him and I was like, you're not that scary. He's a nice guy.
Good guy, right?
Good guy.
One last one.
Yes.
You had a brownie eating contest with Chris Farley when you were 10 years old.
Yes. Let me tell you this story because I think it's beautiful. I'll make it quick. Chris Farley, what a good human he was. I was at Saturday Night Live when I was like 11 years old because my parents went and they took me because it was a treat. I love sketch comedy. I love Saturday Night Live. And I was at the after party and I was kind of a chunky kid and I was standing by the dessert table and Chris Farley came over and he saw that I was looking at the brownies kind of with nerves, with insecurity. And he looked at me, locked eyes with me and put one brownie in his mouth. Then he took another brownie and put it in his mouth. Then he took another brownie and put it in his mouth. And I was trying to like keep up with him but couldn't get through one brownie. And he just smashed them into his mouth and did a whole bit, like a whole physical comedy routine just to make this little shy girl laugh. Wow. And I thought, like, that's a good human. So, yeah, I love Chris Farley.
There it is. There it is. She straightened up the facts right there. All right, Olivia Wilde, absolute pleasure to have you on today, okay?
Yeah.
Continue success. Booksmart is the name of the movie in theaters Friday. I suggest all our citizens go check it out.
Go check it out.
And we can talk about it next week, all right? Up next.